Yes.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the workshop for this evening, the budget workshop. Jason, you going to kick it off, or are we going right to Anna?
Roll call.
Roll call. I do this every workshop. I just want to get right into work.
You do.
Every workshop. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Anderson.
Here.
Councilmember Andreu.
Here.
Councilmember Fadgen.
Here.
Councilmember Horland.
Here.
Councilmember Sortel.
Here.
Mayor Stoner. Here. City Attorney Ezrell.
Here. Welcome. I don't hear you.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council President, Council members, City Attorney Ezrell. Welcome to the City of Plantation's Fiscal Year 2023 Budget Workshop. Each department is going to come up one by one and give you a little overview of their department and some of their needs for fiscal year 2023. And since I'm already at the podium, I'm going to go first.
May I say something?
Sure.
Okay, so all the directors came to me. You know, Parks and Recreation did this presentation last year. Can we all do that too? So there's a little competition behind the scenes. Yes, go ahead.
Is that it?
Out of everyone else's.
Yeah, 1% of everybody else's budget. And they get 10.
Well, so based on that, I will preface that Finance Department's budget is not that exciting. However, our department is very exciting. And we operate under the guiding principles of the fact that we are the steward of the city's finances. It is our job to uphold the relevant laws, professional standards, and policies and procedures that safeguard the city's assets. Our purpose is to ensure the fiscal health and viability of the city by maintaining balanced budgets and ensuring adequate funding to cover operations and to pay for all debts, all debtors and vendors timely. Our mission is to provide oversight for all the city's financial assets and to establish a strong system of internal controls that will ensure the capture, accuracy, and completeness of financial information and financial transactions. Our goal is to provide quality internal and external financial services to our residents and stakeholders and to provide high-quality reports with information that is important to decision-making. The Finance Department is committed to excellence and transparency, and it is our duty to act with fidelity, honesty, and integrity, and in the best interest of the city at all times. The Finance Department has 15 full-time employees, including myself. Our department is broken up into 3 functions. We have budget function, financial operations function, and audit and financial reporting function. The Financial Services Department accomplishments for fiscal year 21 and 22, first of all, we implemented a new e-payables program. So what is that, you might ask? We offer a program now to vendors where they can sign up to get paid by a virtual e-card. And so they're able to access their money quicker. So they don't get a check. They know we send a file to the bank. The bank then notifies them to say your funds are available, and they can immediately access those funds. It's also good for the city because we have about 4 processes that we do. We do one a week on a Wednesday, and we don't have to actually pay the bank until the end of the month. So we get to hold our money a little bit longer. So it's a really good program. It just kicked off in January. It's still in the early stages, but it's going good so far. We also implemented credit cards processing online for various departments citywide. Based on COVID, we really felt that people need to pay their bills. They can't necessarily come in, and they don't want to wait for the mail. So now we're giving them an option where they can pay online. So people are very happy with that. We also moved the process of lien search applications from fax to email and online, which went over really well. There's not many people. Well, I guess the lien search people have faxes, but they prefer to do it this way. We successfully presented a balanced budget to City Council for fiscal year 22. We also were successful in meeting all the requirements of the TRIM process also for 2022. We were successful in applying for and receiving the first tranche of the ARPA funding for $6.5 million. And I just added a little note to that. I just successfully submitted for the second tranche, which that will be on my next accomplishments, though. We also successfully submitted all the required ARPA reporting, which we've told you before is extremely arduous and cumbersome, but we've done it and we've done it timely. So we're very happy with that. We completed the audit, the annual audit timely with 0 comments and or findings, which is a huge thing for us. We also we were successful in applying for the GFOA Distinguished Budget Presentation Award, the GFOA Certificate of Achievement Award for Excellence in Financial Reporting, which is for the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and then the GFOA Outstanding Achievement Popular Annual Financial Reporting Award, which is for the condensed version of the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which is easier to use for the residents, easier to see where the money coming in, where the money is going. And because we obtained all 3 of those particular achievements, those are the only financial awards that are offered by the GFOA. So because we were able to successfully achieve those, we also received another award called the Triple Crown Award for receiving those awards. And to give you an idea of what that looks like, this is sort of similar. We have plaques up in finance which contains 1 for each designation, and then we usually receive a medallion, is what it's called, and it usually has the year on there. But since we've been receiving the Triple Crown Award for the past 3 years, we now get a medallion that has a crown on it. So we're very excited about that. The Financial Services Department budget, like I said, is not real exciting. It doesn't change much from year to year. It's primarily comprised of costs that are required to manage the city's finances and to keep up with mandates of the state and local governments. The budget includes those costs necessary to cover personnel, the annual audit, armored car services, advertising costs, printing costs for the weekly check run, the monthly financials, the annual financial statements. We also have costs related to contracted maintenance for our check printer, copier, and folding machine, postage for our monthly invoice statements mailings, and costs related to membership schools for our staff. For fiscal year 2023, again, there's usually not a whole lot of changes in our department. We have 15 full-time employees, which we've had for a very long time. We're not increasing that. We're not reducing it. We anticipate minimal increases in terms of maybe their employee raises if they're approved. If anything, 2022 operating costs from 21 to 22, the finance department had a 0 increase. We're going to try to do that again for 23. However, I am seeing a lot of contracted maintenance contracts going up due to inflation, so there could be minimal slight increase in those costs. And also in membership schools. That's where we have webinars, seminars, and conferences for staff so that they can stay current on the local, the GASBs and all the reporting requirements, and also for professional staff to maintain their certifications. I have 4 accountants, 3 finance managers, and 1 director. Goals for fiscal year 23. Priority number 1, to present a fiscally responsible balanced budget for fiscal year 23. Successfully meet all the requirements again of the TRIM process. Continue to modernize payment processing for departments citywide. We started it this year. We hope to have it finished by early 2023. We are hoping to document finance department process needs for a new ERP system, which is something that's going to be coming down in the near future. We would like to update and modernize the Financial Services Department website, update financial services policies and procedures, provide ongoing training, this is an ongoing goal that we have to manage risk and fraud prevention, provide ongoing training for GFOA's budget best practices, GFOA's financial transactions best business practices, and implement all new GASBs by the required deadline. Those are usually correspond with your fiscal year. Complete the city's annual audit timely, again with 0 audit findings, and again apply for our Distinguished Budget Award, Certificate of Achievement Award, and the Achievement of Popular Financial Reporting Award. And again, if we get all 3, hopefully we'll get the medallion with the crown. And that's it. Any questions?
Just one question. President Anderson. Ms.
My mic stopped working.
Ms. Otaniano, what ERP system do you currently use? right
We
now?
have Great Plains.
Okay.
That's what Microsoft Great Plains. That's what we've been using since 2008.
And so are you looking to maybe go out?
In a couple of years from now, my understanding is they're moving to the cloud or something, and the support isn't going to be there. So we are going to have to do something. So coming down that is. So we want to be prepared and be in advance. Make sure it's not okay. We need it now. Now what do we need to do? We want to get in front of it and make sure we're prepared and have everything ready to go.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You good? The accountant in the room? Okay, good. Councilmember Searle, good? All right. Well, oh, I see, okay.
Wow. I'm going to sing now. Anybody else have any questions? No one else buzzed in? Okay. Do you want to say anything, Mayor? Okay. So who are you turning over to next?
Yourself?
Hmm?
You? You're the last man standing?
Oh, I don't have any questions.
No? Oh, you had me all in anticipation there.
No.
Okay, well, now I'm going to pass you over to our CAO, Mr. Nunemaker.
Thank you, Anna. Good evening, everybody. I have to admit I'm coming to the table with a little bit of trophy envy after that. So we're very happy to be here. We're excited. We've been through a lot in the past couple of years, so we're excited for what this next year has to offer. And I think it is going to be a lot of achievement. We've got a lot of master planning underway, and with that, we're going to have some serious implementation. I think y'all are going to have a genuine opportunity to make a difference in the lives of residents. Drainage, traffic. I think we're being as aggressive as ever has been in the history of the city. So that we couldn't be more excited about that. Oops.
So I can't.
He did this on purpose to get more money for IT.
The screens are working.
We'll change over there, not over here. Good stuff. So FY22, obviously a very busy year. Code enforcement, one of the things that had been a frustration with the mayors, we have over $30 million on the books for code liens, and we've not been very aggressive on that, and understandably so. We want to be judicious about how we handle these, but we became aware of several instances where certain code violations were creating quality of life issues, severe quality of life issues for the residents. So that's where we've stepped up to move forward to foreclosure in those rare instances. But what we found is that is making a difference. I think people are paying attention, and that's something we're going to continue to do in those select cases. And I think the residents appreciate it because it's made a huge difference in those areas, and that's something we're going to continue to do both on the residential and commercial side. Charter review. I know this took a little bit longer than some of y'all may have liked. We've had some starts and stops, but it's done. Y'all have made your choice, and now the voters will get to decide this November, the first time we've had a charter revision. It'll clean up things, and we're very happy we were able to work with y'all to get that over the goal line. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in November. ARPA. Obviously, the development of the strategy and implementation was very important for us. And we're particularly proud of the fact that we've put a lot of that money into the ground. utility lining, doing a stormwater master plan. Those are going to pay big dividends, and particularly stormwater master plan. We're excited about that. I know when Samira comes to talk to you, she's going to piggyback off of that. And it just, again, it's an opportunity to really make a difference. Y'all have underscored the need to be sustainable, and we live in South Florida. Things are changing, and this is part of that effort, certainly. Again, drainage, stormwater master plan. Having a better relationship and dialogue with PAID. We had some back and forth with them, which I think has opened up a number of conversations. And surprisingly, both with the district administrator and the district engineer, they had brought up to us the possibility of trying to take over PAID. Now, we're very much in the beginning stages of that conversation, but we felt as we begin that conversation, y'all should be aware of that. So that is something, we'll continue that dialogue. One of the things we've talked about, obviously, is in doing so, manage the expectations. So that's an ongoing dialogue we'll have. Traffic, the mayor's often frustrated about the time that government takes to move. But I will tell you, particularly with regard to the Midtown Bridge, to go from concept to design, we've done that very quickly. And I think what we're going to find is that's teed up at a great opportunity to take advantage of state and federal funding. And the indications we have right now is that could provide about a 10% relief in the Midtown area. And we can't solve the traffic problems, but it is important that we show the residents we're doing something about it. We're trying to be proactive. One of the efforts that we've done also is while we're doing the master planning, we're also trying to put some things on the ground and not just tell folks, well, look, in 18 to 24 months, we'll have a plan and we'll get to you. We're deploying some traffic calming devices. We've got some signage that'll be going out. And again, it shows folks we're hearing you, we're paying attention. We've got a traffic enforcement coming up in June. So we are very much pushing that forward. The shuttle effort, that's taken a little bit longer than we'd anticipated, but we're still working on it. We're working on the pads right now. So we'll have 2 shuttle routes hopefully in the near future, again, helping people have more choices. And I think timing-wise, it's probably better in the sense that, we're not in a post-COVID environment, but we're in a more subdued COVID environment, for whatever that means. Employee development. Another thing, we're in a very difficult environment. It's very difficult to compete for employees, and so we have to look at different ways to create an environment where employees want to be here, and it can't be all about the money, because we can't just chase employees with money. So there has to be more to it than that. The public service element, of course, is important, but we also want to be a learning organization. So we've made some steps in that direction, modifying our policies for tuition reimbursement, so folks can pursue their masters, their bachelors. It's going to be reimbursed at a higher rate. We've also had some great dialogue with NOVA. They've been a wonderful partner. That's not to say we won't work with the other colleges, but they've reached out. They've really been aggressive at working with us. We had a lunch and learn not long ago. Had about 40 participants or so. A number of those are pursuing options with them. And with the discount they offer for public sector employees, it's about the same as public rates, which is just an awesome opportunity. Plus the time frame is such that folks can achieve their masters on a very timely basis. So we couldn't be happier about that. And it gives the employees a sense of, look, we want you to grow here. There's opportunity. You can start at one level and work up as high as your imagination can take you. Doing the salary study was important. We had become aware when the mayor did our listening tour a couple of years ago, some equity issues, the haphazard implementation of the prior salary study, not to mention everything we've experienced since then. So that was well received. And again, we couldn't do this without y'all's support, so we appreciate that. It's been phenomenal. The labor contracts we've negotiated. Unfortunately, we'll be back at the table soon on one of those, so we'll look forward to that. Administration's played a role in facilitating our advisory committees, particularly sustainability and the affordable housing advisory committee, and that, I think, is taking on a renewed emphasis given the current crunch we're experiencing. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes out of that. There's no silver bullets there. It's going to take a concerted effort. I think y'all all have been struggling with that. You look at the conversation around 8601, that was kind of an attempt to dip the toe in the water, and that's just something we're going to have to continue to address and try to find some answers to. We also move forward with the procurement of the city's first hybrid vehicles, so we appreciate that nudge. We're moving in the right direction. Bond project capital administration, obviously that's been taking up a lot of time. We feel like we're over the hump on the bond projects. Looking forward to bringing those to close in the coming year. Project Play, another one of those secret squirrel items, but a midtown opportunity that will result in at least 150 jobs. And again, appreciate y'all's support on that. And these efforts have kind of reverberated. I was just telling the mayor earlier, we got another call we're going to be on in the next week or so. People are excited to be on Plantation, and these things build on one another. Risk management, a lot of changes there. We obviously switched for the first time from the League of Cities to Preferred Governmental Insurance Trust. That's gone very smooth. Third-party administrator for claims, that's helped to streamline how we process claims. It's gone very well. The cell tower oversight and lease management, that's very important. It's a good revenue item, but there's also some risk issues associated with that, so we're on top of it. The CRA and Gateway, that has languished a bit, and I think we've rejuvenated that. I think Mr. Hooley brings a lot of enthusiasm to the Gateway. That's been exciting. The PD surge in funding for the Gateway Corridor, we really appreciate that. I think that's put some folks on notice. It's given the chief an additional resource that he can use to attack problems, and we've seen some great results. We look forward to bringing you more details on that as we get closer to the end of the fiscal year. Lauderhill Dialogue and Collaboration. We started a dialogue with them some time ago, and at first there was a little bit of tension, but now it's just a free-flowing dialogue. It's gone very well. There's a lot of support both ways. PD, fire, collaborating very well. We actually loaned them some apparatus while theirs was down. The license plate readers, we've benefited from their experience, and we're going through a process there. But more importantly, just data sharing and talking about areas of common interest, like Plantation General Hospital, for example. So it's been a good dialogue. We've revised the grant application to open things up a little bit, so we're hoping that jogs things loose in the district. And HCA, that's been a tough nut to crack. Obviously, with the hospital being in a little bit of state of flux there, it took us a while to get there, but we've managed to open the dialogue with our local folks and also corporate. So now I think they understand that we're here to support them. We want them in the city, and we don't have, I think, their final vision yet, but I think we'll be a part of that, and I'm hoping we'll hear sooner rather than later, but they do seem committed to staying in the city, which is obviously extremely important to that area. And the ULI study kind of piggybacks off that. That's something that our redevelopment administrator brought to the table, and look forward to seeing those results. And that's something that will come back to y'all, and it emphasizes the General Hospital area. And we also extended the dialogue to include Lauderhill, so they were invited to the table, and I think they very much appreciated that.
You got one from that page?
Sure.
Or do you want me? Revised grant application, what kind of grants and what's that for? Help me out a little bit.
It opens up, we had a facade grant application that kind of had people in a box as to what they could do. This opens it up a little bit more. If they want to do some resiliency efforts or hardening for their structures, parking improvements, there's more meat to it.
In other words, more than a facade.
Exactly.
Okay,
it's
great.
still aesthetic improvements.
And we got the money for it.
We do. It just gives them more options.
All right, thanks.
Mr. Nunemaker,
Yes,
what
ma'am.
is the timeline on the ULI study? When can?
We're going to see it in the next couple months. They're supposed to get back to us, I believe, within the next month. The mayor and I will sit down with them, review it, and then we'll bring it to the CRA, and they'll walk through the whole presentation. Obviously, we're looking forward to that. So I would say within the next couple months.
Okay, thank
Yes, ma'am. As far as FY23, we've got 7 FTEs. We're fully staffed. We feel good about where we are. We're just not looking for any changes there. Priorities, one of them that became evident is, facilitating vision, and that goes in a couple directions. One, when we were looking at the discussion over 8601, it seemed like there was a lot of need to answer questions at a 30,000-foot level. How are we dealing with flex? How are we dealing with affordable housing? And I think the comp plan is an opportunity to do that. And I think that's something that Dan's going to talk about. His shop is going to be moving that forward. Obviously, he's now got an assistant director. He's got additional capacity. So I think y'all are going to be well served by that. And it's something where we hope we can facilitate kind of a shared vision, so when those things come to you in the future, it'll play better in the sense that you will know how it fits. Because what we saw was concerned about, all right, this seems like is it coming out of order? What are we doing more globally? So hopefully those questions will be answered. And likewise in the CRA corridor, there's some visioning that needs to happen there. And, affordable housing, we've talked about it before. We'll talk about it as a challenge. That's something we're going to continue to refine. I mean, what's your comfort level? I think you've had residents come to this dais and talk about it from various perspectives, pro and con, and that's a tough issue that y'all are going to have to wrestle with. ARPA tranche 2, looking forward to strategizing on that. Obviously, that's something we'll start to develop. We'll bring for your input. If you have ideas, we're receptive to that, whether it's tonight or in the future. Certainly, y'all will play a role in that. Again, traffic management, that's not going away. I mean, you could just put that on the forever list. But again, the Midtown Bridge, moving that forward to design, teeing it up for the opportunity to get the funding, the multimodal transportation plan. That's just an awesome opportunity. Again, because of the funding that's coming down and the partnership we have with the MPO, I think that's going to be a slam dunk to the extent that we can start to address some of the issues. We can't solve them, but we can hopefully make life a little bit better for the residents. Stormwater master plan, that's another critical feature. We're going to continue to move forward. As we work through that, we're not just going to wait until it's done. The city engineer was here before to get an allocation of dollars for a canal cleanup. That's paying big dividends, so we need to keep moving those items forward. Paid, I mentioned earlier, we have an open dialogue now. It's exploring next steps there. And even if we don't do something as aggressive as taking over the district, we just need to be more partner focused. So if we can help them, we discussed to them, look, we've got our lobbyists. Can we help you? Get funding. Can we support any grant applications you might have? We just need to make sure we work together. ADA transition plan, we're going to keep working that, keep making improvements. The Broward Mall, that's a huge opportunity. It is probably the biggest thing that will happen in this city in the coming future. Well, second biggest, maybe the biggest, the other being the government center is a new opportunity. And we'll find out June 14th, there's an operating agreement that's due, and if that doesn't happen, then there may be an opportunity there. But certainly the Broward Mall is something that we look forward to working. The CRA gateway, again, we're on a clock. We've got 10 years. Obviously, the gateway will move forward, but the CRA itself, we've got 10 years. We need to make sure we make as much of a difference as we can in that remaining decade. We've all discussed we're aware of some of the issues we have, and we're going to, they have our full attention, and we're going to resolve them. You mentioned the governmental center. And another item I've had the opportunity to speak to some of you about GIS as a freestanding department. One of the things that we're doing with all these master planning activities, we're getting a wealth of information, data. Well, what do we do with that? How is it accessible? How is it standardized? How is it shared between departments? How is it shared with the public? That's all kind of underscored the need to make sure that we have the resources to manage this. So that's one of the things we're going to approach in this budget cycle. We'll obviously want to get your input on that. It would involve, standing it up as a freestanding department, We would need to do another jobs committee meeting to talk about director description and things like that. But that is something we have on our radar, and we look forward to moving forward, potentially contingent upon your support. Some of the challenges, I mean, there's a lot, but these are just a few. Retention and recruitment. I mentioned before, we can't just chase folks with dollars. It has to be more than that, and that's why we're trying to create a learning environment, a unique environment, which to a large degree I think we have. If you look at the efforts we've undertaken during COVID, we've done just about everything we can to help support employees through that. So to increase the learning opportunities, Denise Edsel is going to talk about some other things we're doing to help support employees. I think we really do create a special environment, but it's something we're going to have to continue to tweak. Affordable housing, that is something that I think is with us for the foreseeable future. The mayor and I reached out and talked to Colliers a few weeks ago, and we're of a similar mind in thinking that we've had a bit of a reset here in Florida and don't necessarily see the ebb and flows of values that you've seen. Typically in Florida, you see this 10-year cycle. I think something fundamentally has changed there, and we're looking forward to a presentation from Colliers on the market, and then they'll kind of walk through that. But that's where it's going to be a real struggle to deal with this issue. Yes, ma'am. Solid waste. Our contract will expire in about a year. We need to give notice to Waste Management on what we're going to be doing. So I anticipate we'll be having discussions with y'all in that regard. Labor costs, obviously an issue. So we're looking to see what that looks like. And that'll guide our decision. Are we looking at a renewal, or are we looking at to put it on the street? The economy. We're in an interesting place. We don't know where we'll be next year. There's talk of a recession. Certainly that's a possibility. We're dealing with inflation that, well, they're not talking about it as being transitory anymore. That word seems to have gone by the wayside. We have to deal with that issue. What's it going to look like for Florida? And I think that goes back to our conversation with Colliers and us trying to be a little more sophisticated about understanding the market, what's unique about South Florida, where do the challenges lie. And it also underscores why we need to be very proactive about our vision, looking at how we approach things like the Broward Mall site, and really look at our bottom line, make sure we're growing our job base. It's going to be an exciting few years coming up. And thank you.
Any questions, council members? Thank you, Jason. Mr. Nonemaker. Do you? Okay.
Thank you. Good evening, council members. I wasn't aware that I was competing with Parks and Rec, so I don't have a lovely presentation. I'll just be speaking. But with having said that, HR is a small department, similar to finance, kind of a boring budget. We only have 7 full-time employees currently. We are asking in this budget to create a full-time position from a part-time position. We have a need. Over the last couple of years, we have really expanded what HR has to do. It's not just about processing people and getting them in anymore. It's more about looking towards the employee engagement that Jason was talking about earlier. And also, we were COVID central for 2 years and still are with the slight uptick. So we do have some need for some additional staffing. Some of the things that we have been looking at this last year for employee engagement was to ensure that people felt like HR was still present, because for a long time we weren't able to go out and see people. So we've started going back out and actually going to the departments and seeing people. We have some HR on-site visits coming up. Our benefits has really taken off with the wellness. There's been a number of wellness challenges, and we've had superb participation in those. So we're really trying to up our game with those things. Additionally, As Jason was talking about, we've increased the budget for tuition reimbursement. We've basically doubled it, and we have changed our policy to include graduate degrees. Previously, in Plantation, graduate degrees were covered, and then they were taken away, but now we've put them back. So we're hoping, with the presentation from NOVA that Jason was speaking about, we had about 10 or 15 people from that presentation already in conversation with NOVA about how to go ahead and move forward with some higher education. So that's really exciting. The NOVA program for their MPA is a 50% discount from their tuition. And for their other programs, it's a 20% discount. So that's a very significant, I don't know if you all know what NOVA's prices are, but that's significant. So from that perspective, we're really looking forward to increasing that area. Also, we recently had a very successful employee luncheon. We worked with Parks and Rec to really up our game. It wasn't just one vendor with barbecue. It was food trucks at Volunteer Park. And so it was so successful that we have increased our budget to do that twice a year now. So another thing that we are hoping will engage and keep employees. The other very big thing that we're doing is we are going to be adding a mental health counselor to the clinic. We have had a lot of discussions with employees over the last couple of years. We all know that with the state of the world, including the COVID lockdown, et cetera, mental health issues are really people are starting to talk more about them and not hide them as much. And so we have worked with Marathon. Probably within the next 60 days, we will have a full-time mental health counselor at the Marathon Clinic, which I think will really be very helpful for employees. We have great clinic usage anyway, and we actually just got our clinic information we met with Marathon last week, and diabetes has actually fallen off the top diagnoses. So that means we're really utilizing the clinic very well, and our wellness is working. So that's one of our main accomplishments from this last year, is really stepping up that wellness. And finally, one of the things that we're doing now more, Jason talked about retention of employees, but just getting them is something that's harder and harder these days. And from that perspective, we have been participating in job fairs. We have gone to several high school job fairs, and one that was specifically related to veterans. And today, we hosted for Plantation our first job fair, and it was fantabulous. I just made that word up. We had 66 people come, which, according to CareerSource, is about double what they've been getting at most job fairs lately. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it was busy the whole time. For a 2-hour period, yes, 10 to 12. And so people were very happy. They were excited. We gave out information about our jobs, of course, but we also had 18 other employers there from Plantation and surrounding areas to talk to people about their positions that are open. So we hope to continue to do that, make it bigger and better next year. We will be probably moving it up a little bit, time frame being a little bit earlier, because we did it in the middle of summer camp hiring, so it was a little bit of we want to do it a little earlier next year. But I think that these things to help get employees in and to keep them are where HR wants to try and go. We're trying to get out there and keep employees engaged. So I'm open for any questions.
Councilmember Horland, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Dr. Edsel. I wanted to ask what the HR's position, and it'll be more about the administration budget, but on paid parental leave. When we talk about retaining employees and attracting new employees to the city, there are other cities that are making inroads on offering paid parental leave for the birth or the adoption of a child.
So obviously, we have to follow the federal law, FMLA, where you are allowed up to 12 weeks of parental leave. Our policy states that you utilize your paid leave in conjunction with that. Mm-hmm. So you can get, depending on how much leave you have in your bank, you can get paid leave all the way through that 12 weeks if you have that available. I have not had any discussions with administration about extending that above and beyond what your accruals would give you.
Right, but if a parent does not have that in their bank, then they would not be entitled to the 12 weeks.
They would not be, correct, they would not get paid. They would be, of course, entitled to leave without pay for up to 12 weeks.
Right.
Because that is the law.
And I just think that the study shows that it improves, mother's outcome
Yes.
with postpartum depression and child's outcome. So that's something that I'd like to bring some information forth to the city about other cities that have done that. And I'd love to see us, especially when we're talking about retention and recruitment. I think that we could be, really put our foot out there and be an innovator, and that would attract a lot of people to come work for us.
I will take a look at that and have some discussions with administration about what that could look like.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Etzel.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Councilmember Sorrell?
Thank you, Council President Anderson. I don't know if this is related to budget or not. Is there a cost associated with exploring our evaluation system? And you'd mentioned once that we wanted to look at how we do it.
So,
Where are we at?
well, so currently we use NeoGov for all of our HR things. Anna spoke previously about ERPs, and one of the things that we don't really have an HR ERP. NeoGov doesn't really, Enterprise Resource Planning System, which there are a lot of things out there that are integrated finance and HR all in one, which hopefully when we start looking at, and we have an ERP working group, we're looking for, what our next generation is going to look like. Right now, we don't have something different to utilize. It'll still be NeoGov until we move forward with that. And hopefully in the future, whatever system we get, will have something that makes more sense for us.
Yeah, because what we have right now, I think you'd love to improve.
Yes.
Yeah, so my input as a council member would be, if we're appropriating money, that we find a way to get a little bit to come up with better evaluations, because that would make for better employees in the long run.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else?
Anybody else? Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Etzel.
you.
Mr. Spencer, are you up next?
Good evening. I guess they're having all the boring departments first. Procurement, much like finance and HR, we're service department, so we don't have a lot of capital improvement projects and nothing exciting that we do, although we're excited about our work that we do, because we get to assist all these departments in all their capital endeavors and making sure that what we do is successful and competitive, and everyone has a fair and equal opportunity to provide a proposal or a bid for these important projects for Plantation. So our budget is relatively simple. We're not asking for any capital improvement projects. We will be asking for a contract administrator this year, and this is what's going on in procurement is we are finding a lot of information that needs to be downloaded and analyzed in a way that aligns with the City of Plantation's business practices. And right now, with our current staff, we are receiving a lot more work. We are becoming more centralized every day, but we're also realizing that things are not all marching at the same beat. So providing for a contract administrator will allow for us to do more analytical data, provide more of an assistant to the department with them understanding what contracts they have in place, understanding general terms and conditions associated with those contracts, so providing for an audit trail related to those contracts, and making sure that we can trend those contracts so next time we go out for a solicitation, things align better and we can position ourselves for a better negotiation. And that contract administrator position is going to be important when it comes to those endeavors. We also have a reclassification position to, again, better align with the city's business practices. Our current procurement administrator, Mr. Barber, will be now reclassified to potentially reclassified to an assistant procurement director, will allow for a second to the procurement department. Of course, with great title comes great responsibility. He's been informed of that. And again, just to better align with the city's business practices, the mayor's vision on becoming more centralized and allowing for greater opportunity for small businesses. I am proud to say that we have achieved all our performance measures for the 2021 year and are on track to achieve all our performance measures for 2022. We've had great success with receiving awards this year. We've been a lot more active in the community thanks to the mayor and her vision. We've been engaging greatly with Broward County, and she has allowed us to interact in more forums and shows and become exhibitors to showcase what Plantation has to offer, and allowing and making us more attractive for business to want to do business here in Plantation. We will continue to move forward like that. Like I said, we've put forth many proclamations, received many awards. Our engagement with the National Institute of Government Procurement has been far beyond none. We are attending as many forums as we can attend, allowing for that extra level of communication with our sister cities and agencies across the state of Florida. It has allowed us to have a greater understanding on what's going on in today's economy, how to address our current contracts and what we're seeing when it comes to price elevations and price reductions in some cases, depending on what we're talking about, and allowing us to negotiate and align our contracts with best business practices across the state of Florida. And we also are reaching out beyond the state of Florida, too, for new and innovative ways to address new situations. Some of the things that we've done this year, we are continually producing and distributing our Procurement Gazette, which has been well received, not just by staff, but also by the general public. They find it as a great resource, as a caption of what has been done for the past month, and just a recap of quick information. We will be, by the end of this year, having all our solicitations and term contracts public facing. We're just finishing up the last manual for our public facing platform, so all of our solicitations will now be posted not just on DemandStar, but also posted on the city website, which also makes it more attractive for bidders because now they don't have to pay just to see the bid documents. And that has been a really strong thing from the mayor. She wants everyone to have access to the scope of work before bidding because it allows them the ability to know if they want to bid. Rather than paying whatever the amount is, they now know, can I submit for this bid? So, and allowing for greater transparency, which has always been a focus point of procurement, allowing for the utmost level of transparency that we can have within procurement. Okay, so we've updated the Chapter 2, Article 6 of the City Code entitled Contracts and Purchasing. You guys approve that amending that city code. We will continue to provide updates of that code. It works very well, but it can be a little outdated, and we want to just streamline it to make sure that it addresses our current business practices. So we will continue to work with legal, administration, and of course the City Council, and some of the best practices amongst all our sister agencies to make sure that our policy and procedures are above board. Really, that's about it. I mean, you have any questions? I mean, I can go on and talk procurement forever if you like. That's my favorite subject. Oh, I'm sorry. We did attend the Broward County Better Business workshop, and it was a great turnout. A lot of businesses and residents was happy to see Plantation at that exhibit. So that was a great turnout. So I appreciate that opportunity to attend on behalf of the city. So that was a great thing.
Councilmember Andrea.
Thank you. I'm so excited to hear about the forward-facing procurement on the website because that is so important. So many vendors miss out on opportunities because they can't locate, all of these RFPs or ITVs. In addition to that, have you also just considered more of a social media push so that you're also advertising some of these opportunities to the public at large where they don't even have to go looking at all on our website?
That's a great question, and I have been in talks with the state of Florida. Right now, the state of Florida uses a website, Florida Procurement. Very fickle, right? Every agency uses a different platform to advertise their solicitation. It makes it very difficult for a bidder or a contractor or a firm to know what to register for. I have been in talks with the state of Florida to try and centralize an area so so all of us can post our bids on the state of Florida, and so we can still have that conversation with vendors so they can just know to go to the state of Florida website. We will still continue to use the Manstar, but that would be more of a centralized library of solicitations from all agencies across the state of Florida that they have access to.
We're actually doing a very small test of that.
Yes.
With the South Florida Anchor Line. So I'm familiar with that. But I do find that you can cast a wider net, by just kind of, when you have, some of those larger procurement items.
Absolutely.
Just, post that out and blast it to everybody at large.
I'll talk to administration. We'll get with our social media person to see if we can increase our solicitation publishing of our bids and solicitations. Thank you.
Councilmember Sorrell, did you buzz in? Because the thing had 3 on the board, now there's only 1, so it's glitching.
But I got the number 3, so was there a number 2 ahead of me?
What do you mean you have the numbers?
The number 3 popped up on my thing, I think.
This is definitely glitching tonight. It's like...
I think Councilmember Fadgen probably clicked in before me.
Okay, we'll go to Councilmember Fadgen.
Just a quick question. How many people are on your staff?
Currently 7.
So, and one's going to be reclassed to the assistant director,
Mhm.
and then we're going to add a
Contract
administrator.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
What's the salary range for a contract administrator?
It's grade 118.
Oh, that means a lot.
Is that correct, Denise? I believe that is in the $62,000 range, if I remember correctly.
Thank you, Council President Anderson. First off, I want to state again, I've said it before, procurement has been one of the great victories of this administration. You guys did a nice job, a nice vision of getting a clear way on how we're doing with this.
Thank you.
And I love it. My question to you is, we have, I think we call it local bid, local benefit. If you come within 5% of the bid, you get
Local
the bid.
preference, yes.
Local preference, yeah. How often is that getting used? Half the time, a third of the time, a fifth of the time, roughly?
Plantation does not have a lot of local businesses. We have one electrical company here over in the Gateway District. I believe there's an asphalt company somewhere.
Plantation Forward.
And then we have Plantation Forward. And then we have Plantation Forward also. That really is about it when it comes to that. But to your point, and I apologize, I meant to say this, the mayor has been really a big advocate for small businesses.
Yes.
So what we have done is on the street currently, we are advertising for a general contractors pool that allows for a CBE component requirement, allowing for us to engage and stimulate the Broward County economy. So although we may not have the biggest local business presence here in Plantation, we can't forget about Broward County because that's where we reside. So our current general contractors pool does allow for a CBE requirement and a fixed CBE goal at a certain monetary value. And that will be presented to the city council as soon as everything is evaluated. It's one of the greatest things. I'm super excited about it. I had kind of a workshop, non-mandatory meeting, and everyone can tell my excitement over this entire project. It's one of the things that the mayor was adamant about. So, she was a push, and I have to thank her for that.
A couple more. So just remember me, I think the rule is if you come within 5% of a bid, you can match the bid and get the job. Is that the way we do it?
Correct. If you come
in that
within
terms,
5%.
it costs us no money because we're still doing it for the same price.
Correct.
So my point is, by us doing that, we're not taking money out of our till.
Correct.
So we're cost
What-
neutral.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
I know you're next, but it's right on that, and I wanted to ask on this. Do they have to reside in the business, be fixed as the
Yes.
home base, or a branch, or what's the...
They have to have a business license here in the city of Plantation.
Is it ever extended beyond, do other cities ever extend it to the surrounding cities or anything like that, just to be within Broward?
Not to my knowledge.
Again, if it's
Everybody-
not costing the city anything, and it stimulates our local economy.
I don't believe the local business preference has never extended beyond the city that they're talking about. There are obviously other platforms to engage Broward County businesses, but their local business preference is usually within their own city.
Okay.
I got one more, I'm sorry.
Okay, well, Is it just on this topic? Because she was, okay.
Absolutely on this topic. So you followed other cities. How often do we have local business preferences? Is that usually prevailing through the 31 municipalities? Are we the only one that has it? Do 5 of us have it? You got the idea.
No, we're not the only city that has a local business preference. Obviously, Broward County has a local county preference. Correct. Tamarack has a local business preference. Pompano has local business preference. I mean, a lot of cities have local business preference. It's very common.
Mayor, you're up.
Just sort of wanted to explain
Yes,
a little
definitely.
bit even about our surtax programs. The county requires a 30% goal on each project. Now, remember, it's a goal. We are no longer in the MWBE component of businesses or people being it. So the CBE program is race and gender neutral. And rather than create our own program, small business program, we have had a conversation with the county. They qualify everybody, we use their database, they do all the auditing, and we get to partake of that. Now, one of the things we've talked about, and actually talked about it last time with State Senator Geller at his thing, is you have to sign up. You need to understand where to go. I was giving hints on, in the old days, I used to go through the county budget, and I used to pull out the pages with projects, copy them, and send sets out to the small businesses so they knew that the projects were coming up, because they didn't know how to market themselves. And that's one of the things that I want to continue to do here, which is why we're out in the community more, to attract those folks.
Can the chamber help with that or not? Doesn't seem like a match.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Not the same niche.
Right.
There's still MWBE programs, though. I just want to clarify that. I didn't know what your comment meant when you said we're not.
They are, but not, the school board has one, but not within the county and the surtax projects. So yes, in fact, you can get certified through the state, absolutely, and FDOT. And so there are quite a few places, but within what we do in the city, we're really confined to that CBE, race and gender neutral program. Yes.
Minority women business enterprises.
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of jargon tonight. I'm catching almost all of it. I didn't admit one or two that I didn't know. I'll just divulge. Anybody else have anything? No? Great job, thank you.
Thank you.
Who's next?
That's me.
Okay.
I'll be brief. All right. So my highlights from 2022, most of you guys will be aware of because you've been recipients of that information, and that would be the change of our agenda management system from the Novus system to Peak, which also included the I Legislate feature that some of you are using, and the feature called Send Agenda that allows the public to subscribe to all of our various agendas of our other boards and committees. It also brought those boards and committees into a centralized location where their agendas and meeting minutes are all now also located. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop for all of our meetings. We have also in this cycle, but partially in 2023, we've upgraded the encoder, which the encoder is the gadget that is allowing us to stream through our Granicus platform. So right now we are streaming in a higher definition signal that gives us a little bit of, it not only puts us back under warranty, because the other one's kind of old, but it's also a high def signal, and it gives us a little bit more capability, like some things can be done remotely. This thing was literally installed on Monday, so I don't know all the bells and whistles quite yet, but it's a bonus. Let's see. My 2023 plans involve more technology. and that would be instituting a boards and commissions. They call it boards and commissions. It's Granicus. It's a front-facing kind of database system for our boards. It'll kind of allow us to keep a better track on our applications and applicants and what their terms are. You know, if we wanted to go try to find somebody that was on a board 10 years ago, I'd probably have to leaf through meeting minutes to find things, whereas this is kind of going to keep a centralized database of those people. And again, it also have a front-facing, easier application process. That'll be kind of another nice thing to have. Okay, let's go back to my, I see I just terrible notes, I'm sorry, you know, when I'm doing all this. Right, all right. I guess some other highlights is my staff members are now taking in the phone calls for the city 2200 phone number, which is good. I'm not asking for any more help. We've been, I think, doing fairly well on that. And that's kind of the in brief. City clerk. Yeah, I'm going to be the fastest, I promise.
You get an award here.
Well, you know, I'm working at the same time.
Councilmember Rowland, go ahead.
First, Ms. Beglar, I've thanked you privately, but thank you for bringing us into the 21st century. I, for one, love I legislate. I know there were some kinks working it out, but the agenda management is just so much better. So thank you for that. My question for you is, you know, it's funny, I was on a roundtable with NOVA today. It was really about city government and management and leadership practices, and it was interesting because one of the things I had on my notes, they kind of addressed that in a lot of instances with our practices, we really can't go back to pre-pandemic because I think there's been certain expectations, and now there's been more engagement with the advent of Zoom, Zooming our meetings with the public. And I know we've had the conversation with budget-wise, but I did receive a couple of phone calls about the fact that we're no longer going to be able to broadcast some of those other meetings via Zoom because we have to pay for the ADA, for the closed captioning. It's far too expensive. So my question is, it concerns me, and I know that it's a concern of yours as well, but when we're talking about finances, but I really think that we have been able to engage the public greatly during the pandemic, and we have a lot of participation of people that normally would not have been able to participate in meetings, and I hate to see us go back. So do you have, and I don't want to put you on the spot, a ballpark of what that would have cost us to continue doing those meetings?
I do have some answers.
Okay.
Okay, so I will start off by saying I've done some research just with the meetings, advisory board meetings that we've had just starting the first of the year. And I will tell you the attendance to the advisory boards, I'm talking not council and not planning and zoning, because planning and zoning and council are our two biggest attended meetings. Of the advisory boards, the people that have attended through Zoom have been council members or board members that couldn't come to the meeting. Members of the public have not been attending, and I can pull off the stats for those. Because I do have a couple right here. And that's been the reason why we are the only community of my research that we're still broadcasting our advisory boards through Zoom. Everybody else backed away, mostly because of attendance. And there are some communities that actually have stopped broadcasting their council meetings off of Zoom because of lack of attendance. Now, that's not a problem here. We still get, we've got 5 participants even watching right now. And planning and zoning also is another attended meeting. So it's, so I added 40 hours to the budget for closed captioning of our planning and zoning, which is adding about $2,465 to our closed captioning, and on top of our $13,000 that we currently pay to do council. So it'll be a total of $15,000-ish to close caption council, planning and zoning. We have technically 7 other advisory boards, 5 that We have been Zooming. If I were to grant them about 24 hours apiece, that would be giving them, 2 hours a meeting, because you never know. We're looking at a little over $8,000. We're looking at $8,000 for council members and a couple board members to attend through Zoom.
Okay.
If more, so I don't know.
But that's $8,000 for the year? We're
For the
looking
year.
24 hours.
For 24 hours,
24
right?
hours.
Right.
No,
that's
in
in total.
Not per board.
In
That's
total.
just an extra $8,000.
Yeah.
No, that was all boards.
5 boards. So if I added 40 hours, an additional 40 hours times five boards, it was like 13,000. But that's going on.
Do you have to close caption?
Yes.
If you Zoom it, you have to caption it?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
It ends up being closed captioning, and this is just my math, which is not very good, I'll admit. I have to get this is not coming from Granicus. This is just me trying to sort this out. Take it for what it's worth. It's about $67 an hour. Yeah.
Councilmember Andrea?
I, for one, would think that this would be worth that cost, to have that level, again, of participation and transparency. Maybe a lot of people aren't participating in, sustainability for currently, but a topic could come up that could interest and pique residents, and they want to participate. So to have that ability, I agree with Councilmember Hoyland. I think that we've almost been spoiled, for lack of a better term, since the pandemic, with having that level of access and transparency. So to take that away, to me, for $8,000, I don't think it's worth it. I would rather see us make that investment as a city and put that in the budget for next fiscal year.
Councilmember Sorrell, you're next. Do you want to go to Councilmember Fadgen?
This is a guesstimate, by the way.
Right,
This
right.
is just, this is me trying to.
Because we're essentially paying $8,000 for 0 people. And I love seeing them on Zoom and everything, because it saves me, and I watch everyone if I can. Because I have no life otherwise. Zero people in the public. But anyway, that point isn't, it's not mine to control. The greater point is that I don't think April hit really hard is there are lawyers who surf the whole United States looking for ADA lawsuits against non-compliant. So the choice is either do the closed captioning or don't do it. And that part is frustrating and maddening. So go ahead.
Council, do you want to follow up, Councilmember Andre? It looked like you went for the button.
Well, I just beg to differ about 0 participation, because again, even if one of the members, of course, they all know that the expectation is for them to come in person, but just like we're going through now, as we see a spike again in the COVID numbers, if somebody needed to participate via Zoom.
There is a caveat there. A member could participate via Zoom. It's just the member would be participating. You would see the member, they would be able to participate. It's not going to be broadcast. It's not going to be broadcast. The problem is when we broadcast it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone needed to be remote, or if they were on
Someone needed to be
quarantine, or
remote,
somebody in the
yes.
future?
Right, which we also run into a problem where we've had members that say I'm attending, and then they don't attend, and they think they can attend by Zoom, and then we don't have a quorum, and then we have to call the meeting, and that's happened a few
That's
times.
a different issue altogether.
And we've had that happen more than once.
Councilmember Fadgen?
I'm all about transparency. I think I've made that clear over the last several meetings. Nobody's watching it. When the issues come up that the residents care about, they're still going to have an opportunity to come to City Hall and attend the meetings in person. I just don't think the cost is justified. It's a convenience thing. It's really just, it's primarily for the benefit of council members to watch the meetings, because I do watch the meetings as well. But I just don't think that cost is justified. I mean, if it was a TV show, it'd be canceled. So come on down to City Hall and participate. It's much, I like it when there's people in the audience.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say thank you for the information, Ms. Begler. I still feel that we should, at that cost, I think it's negligible. I'm not for wasting the taxpayer money, but I'm all about expanding access. So, thank you.
How long have we been broadcasting with, but wait, sorry. Have we been broadcasting with captions for the advisory board since, no?
We've been using the live.
Just the
they
only
have-
council
They have a
and-
live transcript function with Zoom. What came to light is that live transcript feature is not ADA compliant. They have a plugin that allows you to bring in a third party, or if you had somebody that was there doing your closed captioning, but the Zoom and like the YouTube Live, those closed captionings are not officially ADA compliant, so it could be a problem.
Okay. Okay. Is that everything? Anybody else have a question for Ms. Begler? Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Monica Knapp, Library Director. First of all, I want to thank you.
Right in the center. Center.
Okay, how's that?
It's
Okay.
on.
First of all, I want to thank you for supporting the library's fee and fine initiative this month. We purely believe that access equals opportunity, and as a profession, we believe going fine-free creates access for all of our patrons. And this week, I have been participating in the Florida Library Association conference, and I got to brag about how forward-facing we are, because so many libraries are struggling with this right now and have not had the support from their governing boards. So thank you very much for that. We were able to test that during the shutdown because, of course, we waived fees during that time, and we found that people, yes, they do return their library materials without fines hanging over their heads. So between the pandemic and the temporary location to Dikey, our mantra has become change is opportunity. And I imagine every department has found that some of the initiatives that we started during COVID are beneficial to the way we do business. So the library had quite a few of them that have worked well and that will be part of our operations moving forward. We are conservative as a group of employees. And sometimes getting people to try new things is difficult, but because we were forced to do some things that we had said, no, we'll never do that, we did them and they worked out great. So some of our highlights for 2022, patron visits and circulation of materials continue to increase as residents are returning to their pre-COVID activities. Library programming, attendance is up, but the number of programs we have is, of course, hampered by our space at Dikey. We have no programming space, and if we can't do it outside, we can't do it, and the rainy season is coming. So we're going to see how that goes. It's also extremely hot. The following programs have resumed. We're back to 4 story times a week. They are outdoors, weather permitting. The Nonfiction Book Club is meeting again. Adopt-a-Shelf volunteers, which are our high school volunteers who maintain our shelves, are back in full force. I think we have about 25 of them right now. We're offering chess the first Saturday of every month. We have 3 reading dogs, therapy dogs. The kids are coming back to read with those again. The Wednesday lectures have continued at the museum, and the patrons who participate in those showed up in my office last week, and they want to do those year-round, not just January to June. So that will be expanding, and the museum has been very gracious about hosting them for us because we don't have the space. And we had a very successful teddy bear picnic. Thank you, Mayor, for coming to read. It was hot but well-attended. Summer reading program is coming, and we are going to work to prevent that summer slide with our students. We kick off on June 11th with a morning program. This year, in previous year, we did no in-person programming, and we did a drive-through, and everybody got a summer reading kit. This year, we're going back to full programming. We have some exciting things coming up with the Museum of Discovery and Science, and some things that our in-house staff has come up with. And we're really excited about it. And, of course, that is all paid for by the Friends of the Library, and we appreciate their hard work. Some of the initiatives we started during COVID that we're going to continue is curbside pickup. The patrons love it. They either reserve online or call in for what they want, and then they just swing by and pick up their bag. We have online holds and reserves now, and that has also been very, very popular, and our software manages it well. And we have some patrons who just call and say, pick out 5 books for me and put them in a bag, and they're trusting us to make those choices for them. So some people will never come in and pick their own books again because we've gotten really good at it for them. A big one for us, and like I said, I just talked about it is at the conference. It's kind of a weird library thing. We all remember the pocket in the back of the book with the stamped date card telling you when to return it. Neither the patrons nor the staff wanted to give those up. And during COVID, we're giving those up because I don't want those cards coming back and forth, because at the beginning we did not know what was on those cards. So we went to receipts for the transactions, and everybody loves it because they can keep those little receipts and know I already read that book. And it went fine and nothing bad happened. But in our world, that was a big shakeup. Storytime kits to go, where families can come and pick up the activities that we do at Storytime, complete with crafts and songs and activities, have been very popular. We are continuing to offer crafts to go for all ages. We have children's themed book bundles, which are extremely popular with busy dads who come in and say, I want everything you have on trains, and we can just hand them a bundle of books and they can walk out with them. And our story walks have been very popular too, where they're outdoors and you follow the storybook along the path. We have a new one for the summer reading program that will go with that one. We were able to replace the public access computers. Those were in the budget, and that project is complete. We added Mometrics, which is an online test study guide, to our digital offerings, and we promoted it with the high schools and with the local technical colleges. So if you need to study for SATs or ASVAB, police officer tests, those are available online with your library card. The staff workroom and the break room at the library building are getting paint, flooring, lights, and new office furniture, so our desks from 1968 are not coming back with us to the building when we go back. We'll be working with the Friends of the Library to continue their fundraising efforts, the tent sales, the online sales, and we had a very successful luncheon this year. They donated $17,000 to the library in May, and nobody can thank them enough for the work that they do or the way they were able to readjust the way they do their work. The library budget is boring, but the work we do is not boring. Most of the costs associated are going back to moving the collection and programming back to the building when it's done. We are hoping when we move back to initiate a hotspot and tablet lending program where patrons would be able to come in and check out a hotspot or a tablet to use at home. We have not asked for any new staff. We do have one empty part-time position right now that will be filled when we move back to the building. You've seen also that capital has moved the books have moved out of capital into operations, which is where they probably should have been all along. So I'm here to report for the museum as well. The museum hosted a successful Winter Wonderland. Some of you I know have been to the model train exhibit. They acquired some high-quality display cases at no cost from the Richard and Pat Johnson Palm Beach County Museum, which are being installed in the City History Museum, so that area is getting a refresh. They resumed in-person programming and events in April. Staff is working with the Plantation Historical Society to create a permanent display showing the archaeological significance of the mound at the Plantation Preserve, which will be part of the city timeline. Of course, they're planning the next Winter Wonderland and also the planning and preparation for the City of Plantation's 70th anniversary, which will be in April 2023. They are working with the Plantation Historical Society. They had a very successful Planter Fair last month. And they have an open position right now because we lost Matthew, our museum assistant. His family has relocated. So we will be... He moved. We're going to miss him. He was fantastic. Nice young man. And so that position is posted, and we will be interviewing for a new part-timer. And no additional positions other than that replacement, and there was no capital in the museum budget. The library and museum are continuing, as all our public institutions are, to assess our collections. We want to make sure our collections are representative of our community, and that is an ongoing effort in both departments. So if you have any questions for me? No? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Holmes, hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, Dan Holmes, Planning, Zoning, and Economic Development Director. I think Charles Spencer had indicated that the boring departments were first. This is kind of where we make that transition from boring to interesting. Sorry about that. I didn't know that I was going to be competing for presentations either, but I think you guys know that I can put together a presentation. You've seen enough of those, right? So in terms of the Planning and Zoning Department, we have basically a 12 staff complement to the department. This is a increase over last year's budget. If you look at last year's budget, you'll notice that we had a total of 9 staff within the Planning and Zoning Department. I want to thank the mayor for really supporting the addition of adding the additional staff persons, because this was very critical for us to, I think, really undertake our day-to-day mission. I think while we were kind of just moving along, we weren't thriving. And so I think with some of these new positions, we can finally move some things forward and kind of get out in front of some of the issues that I think we're confronting. So, and those 3 positions were the assistant director position, it was a CDBG position, and an additional planner position. So, again, I want to thank the mayor for that. In terms of our overall accomplishments for the year, or the things that we're kind of still working on as well, is that we are in the midst of undertaking a ULI study for the Gateway District, which is, I think, a very important study for the Gateway District. We'll look at how the kind of analyze the future of the hospital is one of the key components of that study as well, so we can make sure that we get Gateway kind of moving in the right direction. Another thing, and I just found out that this is actually out on the street, is we're going to be undertaking the comprehensive plan update. I think this is probably one of the most critical things that, from a planning and zoning perspective, that we'll work on this year, because there's so much sort of wrapped up in that are kind of wrapped up in some of the challenges that we're facing as well as a city and as a department. And I'll kind of get into that in just a moment. We just completed our for our SHIP program, our local housing action plan, which is sort of similar to somewhat the consolidated plan for CDBG, which we did last year, but it sort of lays out our goals over up until 2024. So that's been completed. And then some other things that, some of the smaller things that we've kind of been completing. We just also wrapped up an audit with Housing and Urban Development we had, you're probably familiar with the Neighborhood Stabilization Program. We've had that sort of just sitting there on the books, so we were able to complete that. What it looks like we will be able to do is to kind of roll over the remaining funding that's in the NSP program into our CDBG program, so we'll have some more dollars also to spend as part of CDBG, because most of the HUD is kind of closing out that program, and they're asking cities to kind of either finish up some work in that, or either roll it over or do what you're going to do with that. As you know, we also started, the city also created its affordable housing action committee, so the department is now serving sort of as a liaison to that committee. So we're working hard to try to complete some of the strategies that are outlined in the statutes with regard to affordable housing. We continue to even manage some of the CARES Act funding that's out there. And also, we're continuing to implement the facade renovation program that we have within the Gateway District. Ongoing implementation of the short-term rental program. Now, this is a program that we're going to be taking a look at. We have had some glitches with the system that we have in place. We've got some feedback. We have been working with, we've had a couple of meetings with IT to see if we can kind of move some of those functions that we do now it's actually through Granicus now, move some of those functions to our Acela platform. But I think we would still use Granicus for helping us identify those properties that are out of compliance and what have you. So we'll be kind of doing a balance there. But these are some things we'll look at, and I have to have some discussions with the mayor to see how she wishes to move that forward. We continue to do just our zoning code compliance activity. And then again, we, serve as liaison to several of the city's boards, DRC, Plans Adjustment, P&Z, Gateway, Midtown, and of course the new, as I indicated, the new Affordable Housing Committee. Now, some of the challenges that I think we are faced with right now as a department, and Mr. Nunemaker kind of touched upon some of these. One is, of course, affordable housing. This has become a big issue, not just for our city, but I think in the county and across the country as well. So this is something that we're going to be challenged to really work hard to find some solutions to. I think with the comprehensive plan, we'll kind of start making a breakthrough there and kind of look at some strategies for where we might be able to locate affordable housing in a manner that the community finds acceptable. I think right now, no one really knows where it's going, what's happening. So I think as we go through that process, we'll be able to kind of identify that a little clearer. From an economic development standpoint, again, this is something that was touched on. I think the Broward Mall is a parcel that we really need to take a look at. I've been here now for about 6 years, and I kind of continue to see the retail component of the mall just continue to deteriorate a bit, so it's kind of time for us to step in, and we've already been kind of working on that strategy with the mayor. Of course, everyone knows we need to identify our approach to flex. We still have to work on that, but again, I think as we work on the comprehensive plan, that will kind of we'll be able to identify the best approach for that. The things that I'm looking to, as I talk to residents and as items continue to move forward, there's this whole concern about density and growth within the city. I think that's a challenge for us to kind of figure out where we're going to go with that as well. And again, the comprehensive plan will kind of help us with that as well. And then I think just internally for our department, just from a technology standpoint, we're really trying to implement some technologies that will help us work a lot smarter with the public, interact with the public, so we can be more efficient in just doing our jobs. So our goals for the upcoming year, we want to kind of expand some of the GIS, the things that we're doing with GIS. And again, I want to thank the mayor. I think this is another big thing that she's recently sort of implemented within the city is the GIS users group and getting all the departments on board so that we can get the city's assets kind of mapped, and we can start doing some more sophisticated analysis with that technology. I would like to work on, I think internally, our web page is something I've been intending to kind of work on for a while, so that we're providing the city or the residents with the best information out there. I think it's kind of confusing to navigate our page now and for the public to sort of find the information that they are really looking for when they come to planning and zoning. So we're going to work on that as well. And again, we have the sign code rewrite that we're going to be working on. We've already begun to kind of start looking at that. And then again, the Broward Mall study that we touched upon. Now, in terms of the department's overall budget, the Planning and Zoning Department, we pretty much have held the line. We don't have any major increases over the current year's budget. I guess the biggest changes that you would note, although they're not clearly are reflected there because we've added the positions throughout the year, would be the increase with the personnel. You'll notice that there are some line items that have increased. Some of that is due to the increase in staff to accommodate some of the expenditures that go along with that increase. But in terms of our grant programs or what have you, the changes there basically reflect the difference in the funding that we have. We're still pretty much doing the same type of projects that we've done in the previous year, so we'll continue to complete those tasks. And so overall, that's a good overview, I think, of the Planning and Zoning Department. I'm happy to try to answer any questions that you have in that regard.
Councilmember Horland, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to try to be brief. You did answer some of the questions because by my calculation, we have 8 departments to go. So a couple of things that I want to
And only 30 minutes to do it.
I know. But they're important questions, and you did address a few of them. You know that the short-term rentals have been the bane of our collective existence for a while. We had originally had a conversation, and I think to be fair, when we approved host compliance, I think, as you mentioned, the capabilities, identifying properties, and the hotline have been terrific, but they are not able to do a lot of the other things that we need. And my feeling is if you are able to work with IT, and we can do some of that in-house, keep the hotline, keep them identifying the properties. Where we're lacking is in the number of registrations and actually getting people into compliance,
Correct.
As much as we can. So my feeling is cost of compliance costs us about $19,000, just under 20. I think it's $19,585 a year. If we could take any of that money and tie it into the business tax license office and perhaps have a part-timer that's dedicated to that, because I think since we've even had an initial conversation of this, everybody's been notified this week that we had a major incident out in the acres. Residents have been dealing with these short-term rentals. They don't understand when I say to them that the state has tied our hands in so many ways, but I still think there are things that we can do in getting these places registered. And then if we have to start, with the magistrate and finding them, and I also think that there's some things that PD can look at. But under the letter of the law, we have to do all we can, and I don't think that currently, with everything going on in your department, you have the capability to, have a dedicated staff member. So what I'd like to see is if you take a look at what we're paying for host compliance, if that's reduced, is perhaps we have a part-time staff member out of that business office, and then perhaps can also back up Mary Leeds, because she's the only person in there, but really focusing, because the short-term rental situation is only going to get worse. So I think anything that we can do for that. And 2 quick questions. Did the RFP go out on the study we were going to do in Midtown or on the mall? Because I know that was something
The RFP has not gone out yet.
Okay,
We're
but
about
going
to
forward
send
with
it.
that.
Right,
Okay,
that's
and
correct.
then my last very quick question, and anything that we're doing going forward, and that includes getting the consultant for the comp plan. Does anything involve 3D modeling that we can, it does?
Well, okay, very good question.
Okay.
Because and part of one of the things that when I talked about GIS, that's one of the components that I do want to add to GIS is the 3D, because it's going to help us really improve our ability to model, even as we go through the site planning process or what have you. So we are looking into that.
Well, I think that really goes to what all of us have been talking about, doing strategic planning, but also in educating the public, because it's a lot easier to visualize. When we can say, hey, this is what we're going to approve for upzoning in this area. So,
Correct.
Okay. I'm done. Thank you, Mr.
Correct.
Quick question. Thank you, President Anderson. Mr. Holmes, is tree removal still under your umbrella, or did that move to another office?
That's now with Public Works.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mine's real quick.
That's it? Go ahead.
How many registrations do we have for Airbnbs in our city?
About 57.
Yeah,
57.
I was going to say
That's
it's
all.
roughly 50 something, yeah.
You're right about the time, Councilmember Horland. Good call, yeah.
Anybody else?
All right.
Okay, thanks, Dan.
Thank you.
Can we switch? It's 6:35. Go.
No pressure.
Okay. Good evening, council members, council president, mayor, and city attorney. My name is Samira Shalan, the city engineer. Today, I'm going to break the cycle of and have a presentation, one of those excited department. I'm going to highlight in my presentation some of the effort, accomplishments, and budgetary needs, specifically in the traffic and the stormwater management. With that said, the engineering department is a customer-oriented department that focuses on providing professional services to the plantation community. Our services include capital improvement projects, interdepartmental, private development and site plan review between DRC, planning and zoning, and engineering permits and permitting, building permits, coordinating franchise utility permitting and coordinating with them, streetlight management and engineering, intergovernmental relationships with Broward County, FDUT, PAID, South Florida Water Management, and Old Plantation Water Management District, and finally, traffic management and stormwater management. And I'm going to focus my presentation today on the last two bullets. So traffic management. The mayor always says we cannot reduce the traffic, but we will try to implement managing the traffic within our cities. And in order to do so, we apply what we call the 5E principles: engineering, education, enforcement, engagement of the community, and the economic principles. How we do that? We listen to the residents. We receive resident requests. We collect data. We analyze the data because our decisions need to be data-driven. It's not I want, it's the need of the community. Then we design plans, we implement the plans, and then we evaluate the plans. So I'm going to highlight, when the clicker works, the effort. Since I came into Plantation a year and a half ago, we listened to the resident. This is a map. It's a living document where we log every request the resident come to us. Sometimes also the mayor, or through social media posting, we add to the map. Like Jason said in his presentation, the city have high-level projects, the Midtown Bridge and the multimodal transportation plan. But we don't want to wait 18 months or years in order to get the funding. We want to go to the community. We want to implement livability and safety within our neighborhood. So this is the map that we receive the resident request, we go to the field, we evaluate the roadways, we evaluate a proximity to schools, to parks, to is there sidewalks, one sidewalk, is there street lighting, and then we create plans and we evaluate the plans following the principles I just discussed with you. I'm going to go over now three locations where engineering had excelled since last year in implementing the plan. Location number one, Plantation Road. Actually, this location, the mayor brought it to our attention. We evaluated the roadway. We conducted a traffic and volume study. I want you to pay attention to location number 3, where we put the counters. The speed limit on that roadway is 25 miles per hour. The average speed on that particular road in that particular day was 45 miles per hour.
the volume was more than 3,000 vehicles per day. So there was excessive speeding and excessive volume. So what we did, with the direction of the mayor, we purchased, first of all, we worked with the police department on some enforcement and education for a few weeks, and then we purchased radar signs, and we placed them actually today. You're gonna see them on the roads today. So the concept behind this, if a vehicle is approaching the sign, yes, we were just testing. I have a funny story because I was in a meeting and the engineer sent me the 23 mile per hour. And I said, that doesn't work. Please speed up so I can show how the radar sign works. So it was testing. So if you are approaching the radar sign at or below the speed limit, it will flash yellow showing your speed. But if you're approaching the sign above the posted speed, it will flash red with a message, slow down. The beauty of these signs, it transmits data, real-time data to the engineering department. So actually, just before I came over here, I did a test, and from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, there was 1,400 vehicles passed by that road. And people are speeding. So we're gonna monitor the behavior of the traffic. We're gonna, actually, one of the benefit for the radar sign, it identifies when the problem is occurring. So we can work with the traffic division of the police department if the hefty of the speeders are between 4 and 6 or 1 and 3. So we can pinpoint and do better education and enforcement. So they are very beneficial, cost benefit resolution, immediate relief to the community. Also, it works on the psychological behavior of the driver. You know, somebody's watching me, so I better slow down. The second project I want to highlight, 11th Place. Since day one, I came to Plantation. This road was on my plan with the direction of the mayor. We took the similar approach. We conducted a traffic study. We worked with the community. They petitioned for speed cushion. We installed 4 different locations of speed cushions. After school going back into session, we will do the last step of the process, which is the reevaluation of the implementation. Do we need additional measures over there? The last project on the traffic management is Lauderdale West. I'm so happy to report to you today that 3 speed cushions at 3 locations were installed at this community. Yes, yes. Last slide on traffic management. June is Traffic Safety Month. I know the mayor and the police chief gonna talk more about it, but I want to highlight that we are working, it is on the plan, it is one of the major functions that the engineering department is focusing on and will continue to focus on years to come. And we don't want to wait for the bigger projects. Again, the focus is the livability and safety of the neighborhoods, of the residential neighborhoods. Now, let's shift gear to the next very important topic, which is the stormwater management. What's better time to talk drainage than the rainy season? So we just kicked the rainy season, and NOAA had gave us their forecast, which seems it's very active season. So let's get ready. I want to give you some historical data about the stormwater management and the stormwater assessment fee today. In 2012, the City Council passed an ordinance that adopted and established the stormwater utility, which means they moved all the funding from the general fund to a special revenue fund. Whatever we have, that's the money we use for stormwater management. At the same year, in May, they gave us the implementation, how we're going to implement that. So they told us that, or that ordinance and that resolution stated that it's going to be collected as non-ad valorem collection and enforcement mechanism. and the first monthly fee will start January 1st, 2013, and subsequent years. What does that mean? Our current stormwater utility rate is $2.50 per equivalent residential unit. ERU is the measuring unit for stormwater rate. That means we're collecting $30 yearly per ERU. Every house, every residential unit in Plantation equal to 1 ERU, which means it pays $30. Whether the house is small, a condo, or a large house, it will equal to 1 ERU, means $30. Commercial property, the ERU equals to 4,489 square foot of impervious area, meaning you build more impervious, you pay more. The following entities, governmental entities, Broward County School buildings, houses of worship, and any property within Plantation Acre Improvement District is exempt from this fee. Since I moved to Plantation a year and a half ago, this was another focus of myself professionally and my department, and I did a lot of effort in data collection, data analysis, and here's the finding. A lot of the properties were did not reflect development and redevelopment. Example given, Plantation Walk, changed from a commercial property into a residential property. As I stated in the previous slide, there is a different equation in calculating the ERUs between residential and commercial, so that the tax roll didn't reflect that. Number two, the stormwater assessment rate has never been adjusted to recover or offset the effect of inflationary increases as shown in Code Section 9104. What does that mean? Code Section 9104 allows the city to adjust the stormwater assessment fee for a price index, consumer price index, not to exceed 3.5% yearly. It is up to the council during the budgetary process to approve this CPI increase. The stormwater assessment fees since 2013 have never been adjusted. I evaluated the current stormwater management and preventive maintenance operation in relation to the current revenue generated by the stormwater, and the decision or the finding over there, the current revenue is not adequate to support a sustainable stormwater management and preventive maintenance operation, and later on I'm going to give you example of that. And then finally, the current ordinance was established in 2012, establishing the stormwater assessment fee, but it never been evaluated or revised since then. We're talking about 10 years now. After those findings, what is the action plan? So number one, we requested all the data from Broward County Property Appraisal. For a year and a half, myself and my staff were analyzing these data, validating the data, and adjusting the data, adjusting the tax roll to account for development and redevelopment. We will come to you part of the budget process, the budget hearing in July 20th, to show you the tax roll, adjusted tax roll. So in this slide, we're not requesting anything. It's just the adjustments of properties to account for development and redevelopment. And this is, when we do the adjustment, this will be our current revenue generated by the stormwater. 1.1 million from residential properties and 332,000 from commercial property, in a total of $1.44 million. In my previous slide, I said something about is the stormwater assessment fee and the revenue generated is adequate to sustain our stormwater operation. My evaluation of the current condition of our drainage system, we barely do the minimum maintenance. This is the Park East Canal that you guys authorized the maintenance of it. I want to show you the before pictures where our canal had overgrowth, vegetation, debris, trash. And this is just an example of our drainage system. This is a chronic problem in a lot of our canals and roadway. And it is not because we don't do our job. We don't have enough revenue, enough staffing to do the proper maintenance. We do the bare minimum that's required from us, which results in deferred maintenance. The second picture, we just finished one section of that canal, and I'm happy to report the before and after picture. It's still work in progress. We did not finish the project, but it is work in progress. And you can see after we cleared the canal, the water is flowing. It's have enough capacity, or the capacity is recovered for the rainy season. Next, what was next step in this process? I looked at what other cities are doing. This is a snapshot of our neighboring cities and where we stand from our assessment fee in relation to other neighboring cities. As you can see highlighted in yellow, Plantation is, we talked about the $2.50, which equate to the $30, while in Broward County, the average is $88.12. You have cities like Tamarack where they have $9.86, and you have Deerfield 3.75. So in relation to neighboring city, our stormwater assessment fee is very low. Actually, it is the lowest. Oh, what? We'll take that into consideration. Now, I mentioned in the previous slide that stormwater assessment was never adjusted for a CPI. So I did an exercise just to see if it was adjusted for CPI on a yearly basis as per Code Section 9104, where would be standing today. So the starting point, the current is $30. If it was adjusted for CPI 3.5%, in 2023, we will be at almost $41. Looking at other cities and the needs, I did analysis of, okay, what is the need? What is the vision? What is the real need? My asking of you is to consider a $50. That will take us to a $2 million revenue. And why we need that revenue. Before we talk about that, I just want to point out myself, administration, the city attorney, and finance director, we were working with the city attorney diligently in the last few weeks in reviewing the code and making sure there is provisions for annual evaluation and coming back to you, to the council, to the body, the governing body, to tell you where we stand, to evaluate and ask you where we are and where we want to be. So you will see in the next and near future, a resolution that will change the code to allow for that process. Now, as I said in the previous slide, my request to you is to consider an increase to a $50, which will result in increasing our revenue to a $2 million. This money is much needed to up our preventive maintenance, staffing. As you can see, I have a snapshot of our current organization chart for stormwater. We have only four dedicated personnel with no contractual services. The only contractual services we have is spraying the canal, and we do the minimum. The additional revenue will support staffing, purchasing equipment, contractual services, education. Educating the public is very important within this process, and canal cleaning, which much needed. And that concludes my presentation for today. Any questions?
Councilmember Fadgen, go ahead.
So this ERU, as we discussed on the phone call, are we going to change the definition of the ERU for the commercial
I'm not proposing that for two reasons. Number one, it is a change of methodology. Number two, the percentage of commercial properties to residential properties that generate the revenue is less balanced here and more balanced here. I understand there is a slide, and I'm going to go back to it, that shows what is our methodology and what others' methodology. I studied that. After the phone call, I looked back, and
I guess my question is that you've decided to go a CPI increase to request this $50, and this is not an incomplete calculation for the ERU, because before we were talking about that we're doing the bare minimum. $50 should give us a little bit of cushion, but we weren't going to do a full calculation because we were short on time. And I was very hesitant about increasing this rate to $50 if we're not going to do the full calculation. So if you're saying our methodology is going to be, we're going to assess the CPI increase per year, and that's how we're getting to the $50, and we're keeping our ERU definition as is, then I might be okay with that. But if you're telling me we're going to $50 immediately because we have to do this, we've been ignoring it for 10 years, and then we're going to come up with a new methodology for our ERU definition, I'm not going to be on board with that. So are you saying that we are not going to be changing the ERU definition and methodology?
I don't see that happening, at least in the near future, changing the methodology. From here until 5 to 7 years. There is multiple components over here.
I understand, based on our phone conversation, what my concern was, just raising it arbitrarily. I think it's a reasonable calculation. What we did, I think it went to like 415 or something like that with the CPI. You're saying it calculates to $50.
Yes.
Okay.
So I just want to point out, when we proposed the $50, it wasn't arbitrary. As I showed in the presentation, there was a lot of thoughts and a lot of effort and a lot of benchmarking and a lot of thinking about our needs, our vision into where we want to be. Again, we're going to come to you on a yearly basis to evaluate this, but the immediate request, the $50, going to put us in a position providing the proper services to our residents. We are not providing that. And again, not lack from our perspective, but we don't have the revenue to support that service.
I understand that, and I think if you're saying that this is the methodology that we're going to utilize to get to this rate, that is fine. But if you're going to tell me, like, which I think where we were more on that phone call, is that step one is we got to get it up because we need more money because we're doing the bare minimum, and then we're going to do it on the back end, the change of the ERU definition. So if you're just saying this is what we're going to be for the next 5 to 7 years, and then we'll do an assessment of CPI next year to increase the rate if necessary, that's different than what our
Yes,
original
and don't forget, we have the Stormwater Master Plan. The Stormwater Master Plan going to be a 3-year minimum effort. That's really going to identify the impervious percentage of the city. And that's why I said 5 to 7 years, because when I see that, what is our landscape of impervious, then we can even think to reconsider or not consider. But at this point, we have an immediate need, and we're asking you to support us on that.
May I ask, did you say you applied 3.14 or something to that effect as CPI over the 2014 till now?
Yes. So
is that really what CPI was? Yes. That's the average of the years, or because it's a different rate each year?
No, it's in that's what the code document that we can use that.
It's in what document?
So our code section 9104 specify that it is 3.5%, the least of 3.5% over the CPI over that year. For example, I was talking to Anna, this year, 2023, it's 7%. 7%.
Right, so
we cannot come and propose to you 7% because our code limit us to the 3.5%. And that's the calculation how I did. I conducted myself based on the current code.
But did you look at the CPI each year to get to that
Yes.
Okay,
So,
not, you didn't just take the current year and go backwards,
No,
which would have
no,
inflated it?
no.
Okay, that's it. Anybody else have a question? Okay, great, thank you very much.
thank you.
I have a question. We're at 6 o'clock. Excuse me. 7.
Let's do it again.
Well, we're at the council meeting start time, which is normally 6. It's 7. Are we able to move these to the back end? Do we need to table them? Do we keep going? What's standard procedure? I'm going to ask Attorney Ezra for the first start. Because we have time, is COA is 7, council 7:10, and those are advertised.
Well, this is a workshop. You are able to recess this meeting, go to the next meeting, and then come out of recess and continue, assuming that...
At the back end, because we assume...
...acceptable with the schedule for the evening.
I think they're here, we get over, this meeting won't be too long coming up. Do we need to do anything with a motion or anything?
Motion to recess.
So, can I get a motion to recess the workshop?
Motion to recess the workshop until after the city council meeting.
I'll second that. That's what I'm doing right now, but I wanted to get to where we are. Can I, City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Councilmember Andreu?
Yes.
Councilmember Fadgen?
Yes.
Councilmember Horland?
Yes.
Councilmember Sortle?
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson?
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to the